Hi, I'm Maulik Darji, also known as Maz. I'm a consultant therapy radiographer at Northampton General Hospital. I specialise in head and neck cancer, and at the moment, I am the conference president of a charity called the Swallows, and I'm currently trying to raise the awareness of HPV. It's HPV Awareness Day on the 4th of March. So, HPV is the human papillomavirus. There are 200 HPV viruses out there. As we all know, that 4 out of 5 of us will get HPV through skin-to-skin contact, but only a few of us will go on to develop some symptoms. HPV causes different cancers: mouth, throat, cervix, vagina, vulva, anus, and penile. I've got Sky with me and Mick, and we're going to hear from their own personal stories of how they went through treatment.
Yeah, so I was diagnosed with stage 2A clear cell adenocarcinoma, also known as cervical cancer. Mine was detected through my first ever cervical screening when I was 25 years old. So yeah, quite a young age for that to be identified. And then I went through chemotherapy, radiotherapy, and brachytherapy. Throughout all of that, I think it was 5 sessions of chemo, 25 sessions of radiotherapy, and 3 sessions of brachytherapy in the end. And I'm pleased to say that as of next month, I will be 7 years in remission. So it was successful.
I'm Mick. I was diagnosed in February 2023 with, and I'm going to look at my notes now, P16 positive, poorly differentiated squamous cell carcinoma, oropharynx T2N3M0. So that was what I had. I think Maz, the most relevant part of that was the P16 positive. So that meant that it was a cancer that was caused through HPV rather than through other causes such as smoking, drinking, or whatever. So I had treatment during May and June 2023, which was 30 sessions of radiotherapy and 5 sessions of chemotherapy. So I'm now coming up to 2 years since the treatment.
For people that don't know cancer terminology, what's your cancer otherwise commonly known as?
Well, it's commonly known as head and neck cancer, but it was throat cancer. It was cancer at the back of the tongue.
What you went through with your head and neck cancer. Cervical cancer is also really closely associated with HPV as well as many others, as you pointed out. There's quite a lot of them out there. And like with cervical cancer, for example, getting the HPV vaccine it's not obviously a guaranteed preventable action, but it really does increase those odds of you not getting the cervical cancer, because it's protecting you from those abnormal reactive cells that can mutate into cancer. For me, I just missed the vaccinations in school, so they kind of got introduced into the school. I think it was like the year after I left secondary school, and then it just became one of those things that, because it wasn't talked about, of getting the vaccine and how important it was and what it could do. And my parents, for example, didn't really know anything about it either. So I wasn't then encouraged to go to the GP directly and have it done. Just because I missed it in school, I could go to the GP and have it done, or even subsequently after, as I got older, there was nothing to kind of say, oh, that's probably something I should look at getting. So, it's really important, I think, now that we start encouraging that education from such a young age as well, to not only prevent things like cervical cancer or neck and throat cancer, but the other cancers that can be associated with it too. And in particular for me, it's equally as important to get your HPV vaccine as it is to go for your cervical screening. Like you said, it's knowing your body and going for those checkups and making sure that you don't just kind of ignore it and think that you're feeling a bit poorly or something. A cervical screening saved my life. If I hadn't gone for my cervical screening, it's very unlikely I'd still be sitting here now having this conversation with you guys. So, it's all that stuff combined together, I think, that just makes it so important. And I know that research does suggest that 90% of cervical cancers can be prevented through having the HPV vaccine. And then if you add getting your cervical screening check on top of that, that so much precaution that's being put in place to avoid something I was saying to you guys
Yeah.
earlier that I would happily go for my cervical screening 10 times a day, every day for the rest of my life, than go through treatment for cancer again. So I think that says a lot, really.
Yeah.
Well, I think the great news story, Maz, really on this is that there is a vaccine available. The vaccine's been available for some years for school age girls, and also a few years actually for school age boys, and it's just fantastic that to think that you can get vaccinated and have a very, very high chance of not getting the throat cancer that I had. And I think head and neck cancer is the fourth most common
yeah,
amongst
men
in the UK. So that's it's a big one, and you can get vaccinated against it. And if I can consult my notes a bit here, because I went onto the NHS website to look at the HPV vaccine, and it is such a straightforward one. They always list the possible side effects of an injection, and in this case, they can include swelling or pain where the injection was given. Any injection you have anywhere will always have that. Possibly a headache, possibly a high temperature, possibly a bit of dizziness, possibly feeling a bit sick, and tiredness. Now, if you want to compare those possible side effects with the fairly brutal treatment of 30 courses of radiotherapy and chemotherapy, then it is a no-brainer. Get your sons and daughters vaccinated.
I couldn't agree with you more. It's one of those things, isn't it? We could echo it and scream it from the top of the Eiffel Tower for the world to hear, how like that minor, and it's the same as you go home, you feel a bit poorly, just get back into bed, and by the next day you feel better, and you've gone and had a vaccine that's potentially saved your life. Whereas what we've had to go through with our treatment, and I don't know about yourself, but for me, I've now got permanent side effects as a result of going through that treatment. So I'm here now, which I'm always grateful for because of the treatment, but I now have to deal with permanent ongoing issues. And that's all as a result of my treatment from the cancer that I had. And I imagine you're probably the same, is that, and not only is it the side effects, it's the mental toll that it takes on you, and it never leaves you. There's a phrase that I quite commonly use, and I say you're cancer free but never free from cancer. Because it lives with you forever. You never lose or forget that feeling and what you went through, and it comes in waves as well. I don't know about yourself, but I can have really good periods and then really rubbish periods where just your mind's reminding you of all of that. So when you think of all of that on top of then the physical toll it takes going through treatment, and compare that to these potential quite minimal temporary side effects that the vaccine would give you, it's a no-brainer, in my opinion. What you're better off getting. So, but hey, that's just my opinion.
As Mick said, the side effects are so minimal. So why not go for a vaccine which is safe and effective? It can prevent all those whole hosts of cancers. And if you're offered it, it doesn't matter of your gender or what your relationship status is, because there's a lot of stigma out there. I think people think, okay, I'm not sexually active, or I'm not in a relationship, I'm not going to have this vaccine. But it's more important you do so at an early age, because it will protect you for longer and it will be more effective. For those like yourself and me who miss the window, there is opportunity to go privately and have the vaccine now. I can't remember where I read, but it was, if you have it under the age of 40, it still works, it still prevents, but it may not be as that 100, that effective, but it does still work. It's even important if you missed the opportunity, do some research, go out there, go get it.
Yeah, absolutely. And it really bothers me that there is such a stigma, around HPV and how it's, people think it's an STD or things like that. And it just absolutely isn't. Like, when I was reading up a lot on HPV, I read that every single person will pretty much have HPV multiple times in their lifetime. Because it just comes and goes. It's almost like a common cold. You know, you get it, your body fights it, it goes again. You get it, your body fights it, it goes again. And it's through just general skin-on-skin contact. So you don't need to be sexually active. It just happens through any form of sort of skin-on-skin contact is how it's transferred. So it is frustrating. And I think it's because it's not talked about enough. You know,
and I
there's
think
stigma there.
I think it needs some effective rebranding, because calling it HPV makes it sound very, very similar to HIV, and they're two very, very different things. Different things.
Oh, absolutely, yeah, I completely agree with you. And it's it goes back down to education. You know, start from young, educate people from a younger age to understand what it is, what causes it, how it can be prevented, and things like that. And then as the generations go on, it will kind of eradicate that horrible stigma that's associated with it. And, I think obviously the trouble we have is that it's not been around for a long time, as in the knowledge behind it, when you compare it to some other things that are more knowledgeable, like the common flu and the cold and stuff. So, I think we're still kind of entering that generation of educating not only our older generation on it, but also starting to make sure the right education's coming through in our younger generations too. So, but it's not a sexually transmitted disease. It's
not at all.
Yeah, not at all. So, and getting your cervical screening is equally as important as getting your HPV vaccine. Going to the doctors, like you said, when something doesn't feel right is equally as important as well.
And just a statistic to throw out there, like 500,000 of people a year die with a HPV related cancer. So that's quite a lot. So if you've had the vaccine, you're more likely not to get the cancer, and we're saving more lives there.
Well, this has been great, I think. Chatting is the first time I've met you, Mick, and it's been a pleasure. And it's the first time I've met you as well, Maz. And I think we've shared some really, really helpful, useful information. So I say if you want any more information, then you can visit the askabouthpv.org website, and it's full of loads of information that you can have a look through. You can also contact your local Macmillan support team for any extra advice and support if you're not sure about the information you're getting online. And just have a look, do your research and ask questions.
And my closing message is the HPV vaccine is available to all children of school age from, I think, 13 upwards, both boys and girls. And my message is get the jab. It's a no-brainer.
My message to you all is that HPV affects everyone, so let's tackle this together.